Over the past few days, tensions between the United States and Europe have taken a sharp turn. Donald Trump has announced a new round of tariffs, slapping an extra 10% on imports from 8 European countries. The list includes France, Germany, the UK, the Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland. Officially, these measures are framed as trade pressure. In reality, they are clearly tied to Trump's renewed push to bring Greenland under American control. At first glance, you might have expected Europe to tread carefully. Over the past year, many European governments have gone out of their way to avoid confrontation with Trump, hoping to manage him through compromise and quiet diplomacy. But this time, the response has been far more assertive than expected. Instead of backing down, European leaders have begun to push back on several fronts. Troops have been sent to Greenland, trade retaliation plans have been pulled back off the shelf, and serious conversations are now happening in Brussels about using the EU's strongest economic weapons. This video breaks down how Europe is responding, why its tone has changed, and where this standoff could be heading next. Let's start with the most visible move: military deployments. Last week, 7 European countries deployed small numbers of troops to Greenland, with Denmark announcing plans to strengthen its long-term military presence there. These deployments are limited in scale and have been officially justified as addressing security concerns in the Arctic, including those raised by Washington itself. Still, the symbolism matters. Trump clearly took it as a provocation. He responded publicly by accusing European countries of playing a dangerous game, making it clear that even modest military coordination around Greenland is seen in Washington as resistance to his ambitions. The second major response has come through trade policy. The European Parliament has effectively frozen progress on the proposed EU-US trade deal. This agreement, which was signed off at the Commission level last summer, would see the EU purchase large volumes of American energy and other goods in exchange for reduced tariffs on European exports. However, the deal was never ratified, and support for it had already been fragile. Several major political groups in the European Parliament were unhappy with its terms and saw it as giving away leverage too cheaply. Trump's Greenland tariffs appear to have pushed even the remaining supporters over the edge. With key center-right figures now withdrawing backing, the deal is widely viewed as politically dead. Third, the EU has revived its list of retaliatory tariffs that were prepared during last year's trade talks but never implemented. These measures would target roughly $90 billion worth of U.S. exports, focusing on industries that are both economically and politically sensitive, such as cars, aircraft components, and agriculture. Nothing has been imposed yet, but officials have made it clear these options are ready if Washington escalates further. The message is simple: Europe is no longer bluffing. Finally, and most significantly, the EU is openly discussing the use of its anti-coercion instrument. This tool was introduced in 2023 specifically to respond to economic pressure used for political ends. In Brussels, it is often described as the nuclear option of EU trade policy. Unlike tariffs, which mainly hit goods, this instrument could restrict American companies' access to Europe's massive services market. That includes finance, tech, and professional services. Because service exports are harder to redirect to alternative markets, this would likely cause more lasting damage to the U.S. economy than traditional trade retaliation. So why has Europe suddenly found its backbone? Part of the answer is simply the scale of Trump's demands. He is not asking for revised security arrangements or greater access to military facilities. He is openly talking about taking control of a territory whose population has no interest in joining the United States. He has even refused to rule out the use of force. For European governments, this crosses a line from aggressive diplomacy into something much more serious. But there's also a deeper shift happening. Many European leaders appear to have concluded that trying to placate Trump does not work. Concessions have not reduced pressure. They have encouraged it. What began with tariffs has escalated into threats of territorial expansion within just a year. At the same time, Europe's vulnerability has changed. Previous fears that U.S. tariffs would devastate European economies have not fully materialized. Europe has also reduced its dependence on Washington in key areas. Support for Ukraine is now largely financed within Europe, and intelligence cooperation has diversified beyond the United States. Domestic politics also matter. Trump is deeply unpopular across much of Europe. Polling consistently shows extremely negative approval ratings, and opposition parties are increasingly attacking governments for appearing weak in the face of American pressure. Standing up to Trump is no longer just a foreign policy calculation. It is a political necessity. So where does this leave things? A clean resolution looks unlikely. Trump appears personally invested in the idea of owning Greenland, even though existing agreements already give the U.S. wide latitude to operate militarily on the island. When pressed on why ownership is necessary, he has offered vague and sometimes bizarre explanations that suggest this is more about ego and symbolism than strategy. That makes compromise difficult. Denmark and its allies cannot negotiate away sovereignty, and Trump does not seem interested in technical fixes or incremental changes. What we are likely to see instead is a prolonged period of tension, marked by trade pressure, political signaling, and a steadily deteriorating transatlantic relationship. Europe, for the first time in years, seems willing to accept that cost rather than give in. This is no longer just a dispute over tariffs or Arctic security. It is a test of whether Europe is prepared to defend its own political boundaries in the face of raw pressure. And for now, at least, the answer appears to be yes. Mutual respect is restored. Subscribe to the channel for clear and honest coverage of global politics. It helps the channel grow and ensures you never miss important updates from around the world.
By us being here, I think we reassure our allies, we deter our adversaries, but most importantly, we provide an attitude, a difference in a way that we fight